I am curious. Interesting quote in your note was about this idea of some of the competition that PayPal has seen as of late, and I'm curious as to where that competition is coming from.
Yeah, they're seeing competition from a few different angles. The most significant one is from Apple Pay in the core branded checkout button at PayPal. That sort of pay with PayPal checkout button that you see on merchant websites contributes over half of the gross profits of the company. So disproportionate contributor to their profits, and it's under increasing pressure from Apple Pay, which got a lot of momentum coming out of the pandemic, and we estimate now has about half of the same share of checkout that PayPal does, but is gaining very rapidly.
I am curious when we talk about, I guess, some of the first mover advantage that PayPal had in this space, and of course, even with Venmo and that sort of a level of transaction here. Is there any sense that they have the opportunity to maybe reclaim some of that market share, or is the strategy and leadership just not there to do that?
Well, they do have a new CEO coming in. He starts next week. That will be, kind of an injection of new talent. He will have a lot of work ahead of him. He has to, it's not only him, but he has to bring a whole team with him because there's been a lot of turnover in the senior ranks at PayPal. He comes from Intuit, so has a lot of experience and success with small businesses, which if you go back to PayPal's original value proposition, 25 years ago at the advent of the internet, was very focused on small businesses and facilitating payments for smaller merchants on the internet. We expect that he will sort of refocus the company in that direction and really focus on winning in that space, which is where PayPal competes more with a player like a Stripe or the European player Adyen. PayPal has very strong products in that space as well. And that's an area we expect them to kind of try to, pivot a bit and gain some additional momentum.
Lisa, I want to talk a little bit more about the C-suite because this line from your note really struck me that if you take a look right now, PayPal currently has vacancies or temporary assignments in the COO, CFO, Treasurer, and Chief Strategy Officer roles. How unusual is it that a company has that many important open roles at once?
Yeah, that's pretty unusual. Yeah, for sure. The outgoing CEO, Dan Schulman, has been with PayPal for 9 years since prior to the spin out of eBay. He joined when it was spinning out of eBay. He has had a very strong, loyal team around him for a long time. Unsurprisingly, as he's transitioning out of the company, many of those folks who have also been there for 8 or 9 or more years would naturally be retiring or just moving on. But the CEO transition at PayPal has taken a little bit longer than maybe I think investors were hoping it would. It's probably, taken, could have happened as much as a year ago. So there has been a bit of a kind of air pocket where we've had some departures. And since we did not yet know who the new CEO was, and he has to bring in his own team, right? There's sort of these seats that have been sitting sort of vacant or temporarily filled now for quite a while, which is probably contributing a little bit to the sort of sluggish performance of the company this year.
And once we get the bench assembled, once the team is up and running, what should be the first item that they should focus on? Is it the market share? Is it the margin? What's first on the list?
Absolutely, first on the list has to be addressing that competitive threat from Apple Pay. Because that business for PayPal, the branded checkout business, contributes, it's more than half of the profit of the company. And right now, it's not a disaster. It's still growing. It's growing in the mid-single digits. But we need to see that business reaccelerate. And the things, for example, they can revitalize the value proposition of that digital wallet. They have a lot of good capabilities. They have like a really strong buy now, pay later product, for example, that competes with a player like an Affirm. And they have some good, kind of credit and debit products, some other interesting feature functionality, but they really need a strong kind of product and marketing push around it to kind of steer consumers back toward using PayPal to check out and be their preference for checking out on websites or in apps, and moving a bit away, and kind of turning the tide back away from Apple Pay.